Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Nothing crazy going on recently.
Yeah. Well, you and I both did something yesterday.
That's true. We were on a show. You guys might have heard of it.
It's called InterPartyConflict.
Right. No, we were guests on Crit Academy.
Yes. Yeah. I probably should have shared the link before we started recording, but I didn't think, like, once we started recording, I had the idea to share the link to the stream on our Facebook page. So
sure.
Anybody who happened to see our Facebook page at the time may have been able to watch along. But yeah, we were guests on Crit Academy. We were there talking about metagaming.
Yeah, I always forget that they kind of like live stream their episodes.
Yeah. And when we were recording, I didn't see my webcam. I couldn't see it because we were using Discord. And if I had known, I probably would have cleaned my room up a little bit. I don't think there was enough detail to see how messy my recording room is, but
there's enough nerdy stuff in the background to distract the eye.
I guess,
fine.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I always enjoy being on that show.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So I'm not sure when that episode will be going out. Whenever it does, I'll be sure to, put links on social media and such. So yeah, check that out. Crit Academy's a great show.
So I'm in the middle of cleaning up my basement because I had some flooding issues a while back.
Sure.
And so I had to move my computer upstairs. I was on the dining room table for a while. Mm-hmm. Now I've moved on to a more stable table in the living room, and it's been working out fine.
Cool.
But my flooding issues seem to have been solved.
Okay.
Like I haven't had any issues, or it's been a lot better, recently. So
sure.
I feel okay about moving stuff down there. So I've been sort of sectioning off my desk area down there and putting up like soundproofing on the walls and stuff. And I've done some pretty good work in the last couple days.
Cool.
And I'm kind of excited to get stuff moved down there so I can start recording down there. So there'll be less background noise. Not that that's really been an issue.
Sure.
And then I'll want to start doing more stuff with FriendQuest, and then I might want to start doing my own personal like Twitch streaming stuff.
Awesome.
So I'm excited to have like, my little nerd area again,
yeah.
I don't want to call it a man cave because I feel like that plays into like toxic masculinity and stuff like that. But like it's just my little nerd zone, I
know that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be coming out soon, and that's going to have like specific Twitch integration and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have that early access coming out pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that'll be pretty cool. I'm glad that you'll be able to have your own have your recording space back, because I know it's been rough. We've been really fortunate that we haven't had any flooding issues in my house. So. Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to do more long-term recording that isn't going to disturb Skylar, like I don't want to have to like force her to not be able to like watch a show or something because I'm recording for 3 or 4 hours.
Sure.
For like a video game or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it. So I want you to imagine, Jeff, you're an old man and you're...
Stop it. I know. Ugh.
Sorry. Imagine it is 50 years in the future.
Okay.
You are looking back on your life, your experiences, the number of experience points that you've gotten. You're thinking back on your life as an adventurer.
Yeah.
You're writing out your memoirs, and you still haven't come up with a title. You've got a lot of stories about when
that sounds exactly like me.
I don't mean that as a personal attack, but
no, I know.
If shoe fits, wear it.
Right.
So you're thinking back on all the times that you were you fought past scary monsters and you recovered treasure from lost temples and such. And, you're thinking, and then your neighbor comes over, he knocks on the door, and he's gotten bigger with age. His breath weapon has gotten stronger.
Of course.
And he's like, gosh, Jeff, I was sprucing up the old horde, and I was wondering if I could borrow your lawnmower or something. I don't know.
Right.
And then the name comes to you, Jeff.
Oh.
Do you know what you can call your memoirs?
You know what? I think I do.
The
Dragon's
lawnmower.
Horde. Oh.
All right. So today's Dragon's Horde item was submitted by Dustin via Discord. And the item is the Lethean Quill. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It is.
I don't know.
So like there's in Greece, there's the river. I think it's the river Lethe. That's how they pronounced it in the audiobook of Percy Jackson, I think.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, so the Lethean Quill. There's a quote at the beginning of this. Let the memories flow like ink upon the page. May they outlast that which made them. This macabre writing implement was crafted from the temporal bone of a forgotten race, eons before the known races spawned. Its surface has been polished into featurelessness by uncountable handlings. Even so, its tip remains sharp and ready. In addition, when the quill is held, the nib generates its own gray ink. So that's what that's called, the little thing on the end of a fountain pen. It's the nib.
The nib.
The nib. Every time the quill is used, a charisma check is required, starting at 10 and increasing by 5 with each use.
Ooh.
Upon a failure, the user begins writing down memories. Once a memory has been written down, it is permanently removed from the mind of the user. This process continues until the pen is physically removed from their hand by another. Should the user not be stopped, they will write down their entire life, leaving their body an empty shell.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Okay. This is a very eerie cursed item.
Yeah, this definitely fits into the cursed item category of the items we've covered. It's kind of horrifying if you think about it. Yeah. So you start writing your memories, and they're gone from your mind, and they just keep on coming.
Yeah. I could see this even going further to like some like ink copy, some like ink construct that is a copy of the person or something like that.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Coming to life. I feel like I want to say I've seen something like this before.
Sure.
But it's like they they write down their life story on a page and then it comes. I mean, like I guess I'm kind of thinking of Harry Potter.
Yeah, it definitely does have some Harry Potter.
That tends to come
vibes.
up a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
But like it'd be like an ink based construct that just like has the memories of the character.
Sure.
That was left empty.
Because there isn't really very much in the way of mechanics for this. Let me ask you. If there was a method of getting those memories back, what do you think that would entail?
Eating the pages.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it could be they have to write a better story than their own life, or they have to go like, I don't know. They'd have to like trade memories or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd have to find somebody else to lose their memories in place of, and like get theirs back as trade or something like that.
Okay. I think what I would probably do is, in order to get your memories back, you have to copy what's already written, but using your own blood instead of ink.
Oh, okay.
Like if you could copy it word for word in blood, then you'll get those memories back or something.
Sure. Yeah.
I definitely think this works well as a plot hook. Either a player has this pen and they start using it, and then the rest of the party realizes that they can't stop writing and they are, mindlessly doing this thing and they're losing the memory or whatever. Or the players encounter a person who has already done this, who is an empty shell, and then they have to figure out what caused it and then how to undo it or at least stop it from happening again.
Ooh, okay. Going with the blood thing.
Sure.
Like, you could give somebody memories by writing it out in their blood. So, like, instead of copying it word for word in your own blood, if you made some up some other story, like, you get that as a memory.
Okay.
Like, so you think it's real, like you remember it as a memory that actually happened.
Yeah. But
really it's somebody has taken a vial of your blood and have written out these fake memories.
Oh, that's really good, Jeff. This kind of, I won't get too far into it, but this kind of makes me think of Death Note.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
For anybody unfamiliar, Death Note was a manga and an anime and then a movie and then an American movie that's really bad. And the story follows this Japanese high school student who finds this notebook. Basically, it's a notebook that belonged to like an angel of death. And if you write someone's name in this notebook, they'll die. If you just write their name, like 30 seconds later or something, they'll just die of a heart attack.
Yeah, I think something like that.
But the main character is very smart and begins to learn that there's other things you can do with this. If you write instructions after writing the person's name, you can basically force them to do whatever you write that will lead to their own death. So like you could write a person's name and then jumps off a bridge, and then that person would jump off a bridge and die instead of just having a heart attack.
Right.
I first got into it from watching the Japanese movies, which are like a very good condensed version of the story. So if you are interested in this, I recommend watching the movies because you can get the whole story in 3 hours instead of,
right,
20 or whatever. But
yeah,
in that there is a lot of manipulation, causing someone to like tricking someone into writing something in the death note so that then, they'll follow a prescribed set of instructions and so on. There's a lot of like weird trickery, and it feels very similar to what you were saying, Jeff, where you start getting these memories and it's because someone else has used your blood to write with this pen or whatever. Anyway, just very feels very similar to that in tone. Yeah. So yeah, I think that, this is a very evocative item, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
And the name, the Lethean quill, like I mentioned, in Greek mythology, there's the river Lethe. If I'm not mistaken, that is the river that if you touch it, your mind goes blank.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, definitely, Dustin definitely knows his references.
Yeah, different from the Leafy River, which is the river next to a bunch of trees during fall. I don't know if that deserves a clap. Don't patronize me.
All right. So yeah, that was once again, that was the Lethean quill from Dustin via Discord. Thank you very much, Dustin. If anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, Jeff, if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. Once again, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2, courtesy of Crit Academy. So this is the second volume of the Unearthed Tips and Tricks book, which was a compilation of a whole bunch of character concepts and counter concepts, monster variants, magic items, DM tips, and player tips. Tons and tons of great content for players, for DMs, for everybody. So this is Volume 2. We did just start giving away Volume 2, which was Justin's idea, and it's a great idea. So Jeff, who is the winner of this great product this week?
This week's winner is Doug A.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Doug A. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. If you don't, be sure to let us know. Be sure to leave Crit Academy a review, of course. The more reviews they get, the more attention they'll get, and also the more they can focus on working on in the future. So, hopefully I will be helping them write volume 3 whenever that comes around. Maybe, maybe not. But if you do have specific criticisms, you can also send some of those to me in case I do, in case I can take some of those to heart for the future. So big thank you to Crit Academy. Thank you to Doug A. for entering. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to enter this drawing, if they wanted to win a copy of this free supplement, how would they enter this drawing?
They would send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com with Unearthed Tips and Tricks 2 in the subject line.
Yes, be sure to put that number 2 in there.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Patreon's an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. If you check ours out, we've got some various rewards on there. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written. One of those, I've been turning those into audio format, and one of them should have gone out within the last week. We've also got a monthly bonus podcast. We've got a monthly Roll20 game for our top tier patrons. We've got a lot of cool stuff on there. So if you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff in return, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Check out the rewards and see if anything appeals to you. And a big thank you to everybody who has continued to donate. It's some rough times going on right now. If anybody ever had to cancel or reduce their pledge, we totally understand. But to everybody who has joined or just maintained their pledge, we really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. So big thank you to all of you. Yeah. And then just one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Austin make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast on the network. And check out D&D Character Lab, where Garen and Dan made characters every week and pitted them against each other to debate whose characters were better. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Okay, our first question comes from Jason E. on Discord, and he asks, what are some tips for running a game where the PCs are students in a magic school?
Yeah, so let's say you've been reading Harry Potter or Percy Jackson or any of those other, things that came around the same time, and you wanted to run a game that was similarly, the characters are in a magic school, they're learning how to cast magic, possibly having magical adventures in and around the school. What are some cool things that you can do to get a game like that going and have it be engaging?
Yeah. Yeah, I always thought this sort of thing was kind of tough to pull off in like a D&D kind of a style, like a tabletop style of game. Like I'm pretty sure somebody has made probably a Harry Potter tabletop game.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, like it's 'cause it's gonna be, I feel like it's gonna be a lot more role play heavy.
Sure.
Than like combat mechanics. Mostly because I know in the Harry Potter, they, went up against their more than their fair share of deadly encounters.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like it'd be like a lot more like skill checks kind of a thing. Instead of fighting a monster, you're fighting your quote unquote fighting your lesson. I don't know.
Sure. That's okay. That's actually not a bad idea. So one thing that you should have set in stone, or at least have a good idea of when you start, is how much of a balance you want to be between like actual classes and shenanigans, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And if you do want to have, I'll go into both of those in a second, but if you do want to have more classes, one way that you could have classes and make them interesting is to sort of treat them like an encounter.
Yeah.
Maybe not like with attacks and stuff, but if you can treat it like an encounter with, skill challenges and a definite like win condition, I think that's probably going to go a long way towards making those fun. Because I'll say that a lot of I've listened to a couple actual play podcasts that tried to do something like this, and most of the time they kind of end up skipping the whole classes thing. And also in Harry Potter, very little of it is actually in class. Most of it is the shenanigans.
Right, yeah, it's the in between shenanigans and then the whole thing with Voldemort.
Yeah.
So.
So one example that I do have for this is the Adventure Zone. So the current campaign of the Adventure Zone is called Adventure Zone Graduation, and this is very much how it was advertised. It was advertised as the PCs are more or less students in a magic school. It's not strictly magic. It's more of a school for heroes and villains, like kind of like the movie Sky High, if you've seen Sky High.
Yeah.
However, I'm not a huge fan of this campaign of the Adventure Zone. It had a lot of potential, but in my opinion, one of the biggest flaws with it is that it isn't about a magic school anymore. The first 2 or 3 episodes were very much they're going to class, they have these skill checks that they do while they're in class, and say what you will about some of the other quality issues, but it was about a magic school at the beginning. And then maybe, 4 or 5 episodes in, it was like, okay, now they're going off on adventures, and it's really not about the school anymore at all. The school was just kind of a backdrop at the beginning.
Yeah, it was a jumping off point.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'll say it would be very difficult to have it stay in the school the whole time and be fun.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Just be aware of that when you go in. It's going to be difficult if you want to focus heavily on the school.
Yeah. Because again, going back to the example of Harry Potter, the books always ended outside of the school, or at least outside of the realm of it's a school. It's more about, I don't know, it's more about the adventure at the end of the book or whatever.
Yeah.
They go on some crazy thing, like they go into the Forbidden Forest or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like because the whole idea of school and education is that you are doing this as a means to an end, like you're doing this to achieve your education so that you can go and do the real world stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess because what do they call it, like graduation or something?
Adventure Zone Graduation. Yeah.
Yeah. So did they graduate at episode 3 and then go and do adventure stuff?
Oh, no. It's there was a point where it's like, okay, they're on summer break now, but nothing by that point they had already deviated so much from being in classes that there wasn't really a clear delineation.
Okay. So there's always been talk in the past of ooh, what if they did a Harry Potter MMO?
Sure.
That'd be so cool.
Sure.
But the idea would be what would a video game, like a multiplayer video game like that entail? Would it just be Hogwarts? Would it just be the school? Are you leveling up, or and you're leveling up is the different years that you're at the school, and so the game ends when you graduate?
No, then you become a teacher.
Right? Yeah. Oh, sure. Or is it really or is the school the big the tutorial basically?
Yeah.
But because when it comes to Harry Potter specifically, Hogwarts is it. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
As far as the setting goes, it's all Hogwarts. And the stuff outside of Hogwarts is there's some detail there. There's a lot to it, but
there's a lot of world building.
Yeah, there is a lot of world building, but it's not as much as is put into Hogwarts itself.
Sure.
So if you were to make a game based on Harry Potter, you would only really have mostly Hogwarts stuff to work with. So the whole idea of making an adventure, writing an adventure where you're students in a magic school, you really want it to center around the school itself. You want that to be the main part of the adventure. Yeah, you probably go off on shenanigans and adventures here and there. Or could be final exams are a dungeon,
Sure.
Something like that.
I mean, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could still fit in more traditional adventure stuff, but at the end of the segment of adventures, at the end of the adventure or whatever, you you end up back in class or something.
Sure.
Yeah, well, or you know what? That is kind of a neat idea. It's like you are learning, you are studying a certain type of, you're taking a class to learn a certain type of trap, and then you're taking a class to learn certain types of like monsters and certain types of monster layers or something like that. And then the final exam for that class is you go in a dungeon and use what you've learned.
I really like this idea. I love the idea of it. Let's say you're playing D&D and you're going into a dungeon and it is very clear from the beginning, this is going to be the dungeon that's all about pit traps.
Yeah.
And then you know that going in, so you're prepared for it. And so you can kind of like, that's how you can learn the ins and outs of pit traps, so that it doesn't like take you by surprise in the future. And then you do have an exam dungeon that is a combination of pit traps. It's about that lesson you had on oozes and so on. I think that's really cool. It's a lot of work for the dungeon master, of course, but that's a neat way to do it. That's a way that you could do classes as, adventuring.
Yeah. There's a, like in game design and level design, there is a, like the way that you like teach the player about the game without telling them, it's more showing versus telling.
Yeah.
So like in like a video game, you might have, fireballs coming from from the right of the screen and coming at you. If you remember the old school Mario game.
Sure.
Where you're in Bowser's castle, or King Koopa, he was called then, by the way. So like, fireballs coming over, and so you gotta jump over those fireballs, and then you might go along, and there might be like moving platforms, and you got to deal with those. And then so like you're learning things one at a time, but then like as the level goes on, you start having to like dodge fireballs while jumping over moving platforms.
Yeah.
And it becomes more and more difficult, but you're using what you've learned about each thing individually.
Sure.
To be able to use those skills and put them together and, get through it. So yeah, I kind of like, I do like the idea of like, you're learning each aspect of the dungeon, of the final adventure, of the adventure final exam or whatever. Like you're learning each individual aspect of it, just sort of in a vacuum, because you're in class learning about this one monster.
Sure.
And then your next class is you're learning about this one spell effect or something.
Yeah.
And then it's your job as the student to put those things together to be able to get through the dungeon.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good idea for like how to set up a framework of what sort of challenges there are going to be. Mm-hmm. A big thing, if you're going to be running some sort of a thing that is set in a school, to make it feel like it is a school, you got to have structure. I'm going to try not to spend the whole episode complaining about the Adventure Zone, but one thing that really felt lacking was at no point did it feel like the listeners or even the players knew what they were supposed to be doing at any given moment. It was pretty much just the DM saying, okay, you guys are doing this, and now you guys are doing this. If you set up with the players, okay, there's lights out at this time. You're not allowed in this area, this area, this area. You have these classes, and then it's up to the players to kind of figure out what they're going to be doing in the meantime. Yeah. As long as the players know what is going to be happening after whatever they're doing right now, then there's stakes, because, okay, we have to finish. Let's say we're investigating the basement of the school. We have to be in class in 30 minutes. So we have to stop what we're doing. We have to be done with what we're doing by then. So now they have a little bit more idea of what they're supposed to do. If they know, we have to be at this class that's on the other side of the school, that means they can think of things they're going to do on the way there. It kind of necessitates a lot more planning from the dungeon master in order for the school to feel believable as a school.
Right. And I mean, it is a lot of work to do something like that, but I feel like that's not something you have to like work on too. Like if you built the school ahead of time, you mapped it out.
Sure.
And like you can create a class schedule for the characters.
And you could even work with the players to do this. It doesn't have to all be on the DM's shoulders.
They have electives.
Well, I mean, that is a thing that you should include. The players can choose some of the things that they want their characters to be doing.
Yeah, like, what classes would you like to take? Yeah.
You should have an idea of what sort of shenanigans can happen in the school basement, in the lunchroom, is there a forbidden forest? Is there a friendly groundskeeper?
Right. Is there a Mr. Filch and Mrs. Norris kind of situation? Is there, is the headmaster a really awesome guy or whatever? Especially
if it's a magical school, there should be so many weird magical things. I mean, I know that a lot of the stuff in Harry Potter was kind of superfluous, but paintings that move, staircases that move, ghosts and stuff. Those are all things that I can see where the writer was going with, where they're coming from with that.
Yeah.
And so magic should be a huge part of all of this. I know that when Jason asked this question, he was also asking about, should the players have mandatory class levels? Should it be mandatory that all the players have 1 or 2 levels of wizard?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And, if it is explicitly a magical school, I would say yes. Maybe let the players swap one of those out for a different spellcasting class. Maybe let them swap it out later if you do want them to all have a shared move set at the beginning.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It could be it's like a magic initiate class, and not,
sure.
You're taking levels in this magic initiate class that then when you graduate or whatever, it turns into a different, it turns into a magic casting class of your choice.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Or I mean, you could build into the school the different types of magic that there are.
Sure.
Okay. So maybe that's sort of like a clique sort of thing. There's the jocks and the geeks or whatever, but no, there's the there's the sorcerers, and there's I was gonna call them the Bloods, but that's
that's something else.
That's a different. Yeah. But I mean, you could, the sorcerers and the wizards don't get along because the wizards have to do they have to do all the book work.
Sure.
Where the wizards kind of can just do it, but they still have to learn how to control their powers, Yeah. So they're more flashy. They're they can cast spells whenever they want, but to be good at them, they gotta concentrate on it. Whereas the wizards, we gotta put in the book work. Come on, guys. So they're the nerds, and those sorcerers are the jocks.
Yeah.
So.
Warlocks could be the rich kids that their parents send them all the all the fancy stuff.
Their rich parents are their patrons.
Yep.
Oh, that's really good. Oh, this is awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There should be sports, not necessarily one sport that everybody plays, but there should be some sort of sport that is in some way magical.
Quidditch is the best game ever. It's the only game anybody plays, and it has the most ridiculous rules ever.
It's clearly made by someone who does not understand sports.
Right.
There should be rival schools.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good.
And maybe an adventure could be you have to sneak into the rival school and kidnap their mascot or something.
Yeah. Yes. And their mascot is an owl bear or something. It's some
yes.
it is something that is not going to be easy to keep quiet, or
the beholder. We're the beholders.
The beholders, yeah. The mascot is the headmaster who is the beholder. Good. So you try to kidnap him.
Yeah. Here's one thing. If this is going to be in a school and you want it to feel like a school, I will say make it very, very, very difficult to cause lethal damage.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't have the option of killing. If you do have the option of killing, it has to be a very deliberate, very difficult thing that has very harsh repercussions. I mean, obviously, it should be harsh if you kill another student. I don't think I'm being very radical saying that. But what I mean is that it should not be just, yeah, you did enough damage, okay, they're dead. I think that if you are in a fight with another student, either because there's magical wards on the school or whatever, the absolute consequences should just be that they get knocked out and or have some sort of like short-term malady applied to them. It should not be that you are in danger of killing anyone, because that just, it opens the door for so many other things. It is much better for you to have to live with the repercussions of getting into a fight with someone, because now you have to see that person every day.
Right.
Rather than just you killed them and now they're out of the picture.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a very school experience. Like you got in a fight with so-and-so but you still have to go to class with them every day. So now they're, throwing spitballs at you or something.
Could you imagine if Harry Potter was a D&D game and they just killed Malfoy in like the first book?
I mean,
totally different story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There should be secret passages.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's Magic School 101, secret passages.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's got to be a ton of them.
Weird magic items. Classes where weird magical stuff happens. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of things going haywire.
Yes.
Yeah, like it. I feel like because like you can have a lot of fun with like in building NPCs because you're forcing reoccurring characters because it's a school. Like you have a schedule. You're going to be going to the school every day for however long. You're going to see the same teachers and the same people all the time. So like yeah, it's going to be a lot more work because you have to put way more detail into each NPC, but you get to have a lot of fun because you get to, and with what you were saying, like there's not going to be a lot of people dying. Like,
sure.
So like all the work you put into NPCs and enemies and stuff like that, like, but these are NPCs and enemies that aren't intended to be killed after the first encounter.
Yeah.
So like you can have a lot of fun, like creating the teachers and the other students and stuff.
Sure. Now, I will urge that you don't over prepare, because again, I've got some issues with the Adventure Zone graduation, and one of the biggest issues, even from the beginning, was that the DM had too many characters that were all beholden to the story. Like he started the game, the first episode had like 20 named NPCs with full backstories that were introduced, and that is too many. The players are not going to remember all of those. If you want there to be a lot of NPCs, and it does make sense in a school setting, as Jeff was saying, it makes sense for there to be a lot of NPCs, especially recurring NPCs. Number one, don't introduce all of them right at the beginning. And number two, I would recommend have the players make some of those NPCs themselves. Don't ever just keep all of the work on your shoulders. Put the players to work, but also let the players be invested in the NPCs as well, because they put some of their own selves into them as well.
Yeah.
If you tell each player, come up with 3 classmates and 1 faculty member, you've got, 12 NPCs right there that you didn't have to make, and at least one of the players is already invested in that character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do something like that.
Yeah. Takes a little bit of work off of your shoulders and, gets the player more invested in the setting. And then it is something that's not directly tied to the story. So it's something for the characters, the players to fall back on when they're not going for the plot hook,
Sure. I think that this is a great idea. In fact, talking about this makes me really want to do this. So
it's actually it sounds like fun.
This may be a future Roll20 game that that we do. Who knows?
Perhaps, yeah.
Actually, on that topic, sorry, I'm going to go on a short little tangent here. So our Roll20 Eberron game that we just concluded last month, I put in time travel stuff in there, like the last few sessions dealt pretty heavily with time travel. Mm-hmm. And I kept hoping that the players would listen to our episode on time travel and use some of the ideas that we came up with in that.
Oh,
but
sure.
unfortunately, none of them did. I can't fault them. And if I really wanted them to, I could have just told them, you can do this thing.
Right,
But,
yeah.
it would have been neat if someone showed up and they were like, hey, I want to put a key under this rock. I want to come back here in the future and put a key under this rock. And, nobody did. And that's fine. I don't even know if there were good opportunities to do so. But listeners,
right, yeah.
If you're in one of my Roll20 games, feel free to bring in content from our episodes and use them to your advantage.
I mean, it's, it's some fancy metagaming, but it's acceptable.
A little bit. Yeah. So no, like I seriously love the idea of having a magic school. I love the idea of having a map that the players can look at the locations and think about, okay, I want to go see what's going on in the greenhouse, or I want to see what's behind this locked door over in the, the teacher's lounge or whatever. Come up with, if there's enough structure that the players can look at it and figure out where they can try and push the boundaries, it's going to go so much better than if it was just, you're in a magic school, what do you do?
The party rogue is picking all the locks to the lockers and stealing people's lunches.
Sure. I mean, that's a fun thing that could happen. Or like a session could be, okay, you guys, you go to your locker in the morning and someone's stolen your lunch. In fact, someone has stolen everybody's lunch. And then while you're in classes, you can be formulating plans on how to catch the lunch bandit or whatever.
Have you seen Kindergarten Cop?
A long time ago.
This reminded me of the scene where it's like there's the kid who's like over by all the cubbies and he's eating everybody else's lunch.
Okay.
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he's like, are these all your lunches? You mean you've been eating other people's lunches? Stop it!
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Yeah, that's from that one.
So it's been a long time since I've seen Kindergarten Cop. However, I have played Silent Hill, which takes place in the same town. If you look at,
oh my God,
there are stills from the first Silent Hill game that 100% match up with stills from Kindergarten Cop.
Oh my God.
I don't know why, but when they were designing the school that's at the beginning of Silent Hill, they very obviously used Kindergarten Cop as examples of what the school should look like. It is bonkers. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Yeah, so I think that there is a lot of fun to be had. You can definitely take some inspiration from Harry Potter. I didn't really mention very much about Percy Jackson because Percy Jackson follows a very similar framework as Harry Potter. However, Percy Jackson, they spend almost no time in the quote-unquote school. It's not a school, it's a camp, but the series is very similar. However, they spend even less time at the school analog. So there aren't really very many examples to pull from that. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with this. Hopefully we had some fun, hopefully some of our ideas were good and were usable. So if anybody out there does this and has makes an adventure or a campaign that is a magic school, let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. The last few episodes have been, some pretty meaty questions. So I think, we'll probably have some shorter ones in the future, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, when you think of D&D, what specific memories or elements are the first things that come to mind? Now, Jeff, I don't necessarily need you to recount yours because we did do an entire episode of that, but
sure. Yeah.
We didn't really get a ton of responses for this. We only got a few, which I guess it's kind of an esoteric question, so I can understand that. Yeah. But over on Facebook, Jake F. says, usually my favorite played characters and a collection of 4th edition books. Mm-hmm. So with him, he thinks of like 4th edition. And Jake is actually someone that I used to play. I played D&D with him back in the 4th edition days. And so hopefully that means I'm part of those memories. Who knows? And then Brandon S. says, friends, snacks, and dice superstition. I don't think that's really something we talked about. Is a lot of people do have superstitions about their dice. They don't want anybody touching their dice.
Or they have like They have like dice jails. Like they have like
Yeah.
places they put their dice when the dice have been bad.
Yeah.
Like the D20's been rolling low all night. I'm gonna put it in the bad bag.
I think I used to know someone who would occasionally put her dice in the microwave if they misbehaved.
Oh, what? I feel like that would make them worse.
I don't know. Who knows? No, what you do is you set it so the highest number is up, and then if it melts, all of the weight will go
down
in that, so it'll land with the 20 on the top.
Have you seen the videos where people like put a lot of make really salty water? Like they they just like high salinity water, and then they float the dice in there to check and see the balance.
Yeah, I've never done that myself, but I've seen videos of it.
I was like, that's bonkers.
Yeah, I think people I think that the variance in, because the idea of that is to see how balanced the die is, because if it is always rolling a specific number, it may be because it's off balance. But I think the people that's overblown. I think that it's just random numbers are random numbers,
Right. The effect that the balance has, like, at least to the tiny amount that it has imbalances, I don't think it's going to play in as much as people think. Yeah.
Right. You're right. Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, back when I played 3.5, one of the PCs in the campaign I was in had the ability to do short-range teleportation at will. His gimmick was that he would teleport directly above an enemy and fall into them, dealing his weapon damage, as well as falling damage. It is the only time in my adult life where I have ever actually used trigonometry. Dungeons and Dragons, aka Homework the game. Yeah. I hear you. There was, when I played with Chris, a lot of my stories involve Chris because he would be the person that would pull out a graphing calculator, and it was usually just that he did so much damage. He rolled so many dice that he had to, multiply
calculate
and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But
I had a character like that once.
Yeah. Over on Twitter, we just got one. Justin M says, my initial thoughts always fall on nostalgia that's indicative to when I started playing. Larry Elmore fantasy art, dungeon delves, mismatched dice sets, bootleg cassettes of self-recorded video game RPG music as ambiance, and long summer campaigns fueled by Jolt and Surge. And this is the exact kind of response I was hoping for, like those kinds of memories,
Yeah.
And actually, Larry Elmore when I was editing that episode, I did look up a lot of fantasy art, and I found a website that has a bunch of like the old school D&D artists, and Larry Elmore is one of them. His art is really good. It's like very much you look at it and it feels like D&D.
Sure.
Over on Discord, we got a few. Dustin says, I think back to long nights in college, crowded around a table with my friends, letting the stress of our studies fade away. I actually met my friends answering an email about a D&D group. That was 10 years ago. I vaguely remember the plot lines, but I will always remember my friends. And yeah, a large amount of my friends are because of D&D. Jeff, you and I wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for D&D. I was friends with Jay beforehand, but I don't think we would be nearly as strong of friends if we hadn't started playing D&D together.
Sure.
Chris, I know through D&D. There's another Chris that I've mentioned a long, long time ago, Tennessee Chris.
Chris.
I met him through D&D as well, and he became friends with all of my friends. So now a large amount of his friends, because I don't live in Tennessee anymore, a large amount of his friends are because he and I met through D&D together. So D&D brings people together.
Oh, yeah.
The Beverage Tea says, what first comes to mind and has lasted well into adulthood is that D&D was a gateway to devil worship and drug abuse and possibly murder or suicide. I was prime age to grow up with the Satanic Panic, and D&D was a hard no in my house. Years after I played Baldur's Gate did I really connect the dots. Now I associate it with character building and collaborative storytelling with friends. And yeah, depending on when you grew up, like a lot of people, that's what they think of when they hear D&D. And
yeah,
it's a shame, but what are you going to do about it?
Right. Yeah.
Stiltskin Kupo 84 says, meeting in the basement of one of our college editorial staff's parents' house, nerding out over all the different system manuals he'd acquired, gazing in a combination of awe and financial disgust over his vast collection of Warhammer and D&D minis, creating my first 3.5 character, a bleeding heart lawful good paladin named Cable, because X-Men made that a hardcore name, getting my soul stomped on as I realized that my entire neutral evil party wanted anything but the noble adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fits. I think that fits a lot of people's first experience with playing D&D. Dr. Taco 86 says, I think back to character creation for hours. As our DM would set up his plans, the rest of the group would huddle around the other end of the table, ironing out our characters and our expectations. Looking back, it feels like we spent more time setting up our characters than we actually did playing. It was fun times with good friends in either case. I can definitely get behind this because so many nights spent in Jay's basement, we would just make characters for some campaign we never ended up actually playing.
Right. Yep.
And I mean, hey, whatever works. Like,
we still
you're having fun either way.
Yeah.
And then just one more. Deborah Soar says, she just says, I think of this old thing, and then posts a picture of a Lego castle. I'll put it in the show notes, but it's one of those like old school Lego castles. There's Lego guys on horses and a skeleton with like a catapult or something. It's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was our last social media question. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. Our next question is, have you ever built a prop, such as a sword, a spell book, a mask, etc., to use when role-playing as your character? If not, what's a prop you would make if you had the ability?
If not, what's wrong with you?
Yep. So yeah, have you ever made, or I guess bought, any sort of prop for a character of yours, Jeff?
I can't remember anything specifically.
Yeah.
Like I've bought nerdy things just to like, I don't know, like maybe bring along to a game or something, like
sure.
like a cool goblet or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that works.
But yeah, like a specific prop for the character, I can't think of anything. Like I have this little like leather bound little book thing that I always imagined like writing out spells and runes in it or something.
Sure.
To just kind of have like as a little prop sort of thing, but I don't think I ever actually did anything with it.
Yeah. I don't think I ever have. If I could, I think it would be really cool to have like a leather bound spell book or something, even if it was just to keep my character sheets in. I think that would be pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe someday I will. Maybe I'll pick up leatherworking if there's a quarantine too.
Oh God. No.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm just saying I'll make the best of it, I guess. So I've hopefully some of our listeners out there either have or would use some sort of props or something. I'm all for having physical stuff at the table. I think that's pretty cool. Just never really done it myself.
Sure.
So that'll do it for our questions for this week. Before we close out though, let's wind down a little bit. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives so that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Joe S. via Discord, and he says the following. Last night I lost my Tempest cleric of Akkadi, named Palel. She ran into the fray to get some healing on her friend, the Echo Knight, as he was critically injured. She sent her most powerful magic, shocking his horribly torn and beaten body, allowing him to swap places with his Echo and escape danger. Palel, however, had no way to remove herself from the ice explosion from the boss monster, and was the only target in range for the claw attacks that followed. Laying there unconscious, her condition only worsened as their mount, a lumbering Triceratops, charged and enraged the big boss in combat, failing her first death save, and none of her companions could get to her during the initial charge. The next round, the big boss struck a mortal blow, dropping the Triceratops prone and, As a result of Pale Ale failing the second death save with a natural 1, Pale Ale was crushed.
Oh, no.
There was much wailing and gnashing of teeth, but there was still a small spark of hope. Pale Ale had been wearing an amulet, and in that amulet there was a spell stored. A single, prepaid Revivify.
Ooh.
Once the boss was goaded away from the area, her party heroically triggered the spell, and Akadi released her spirit back into her body as the tempestual winds of the primordial power filled her lungs. Not kidding about the wailing and teeth gnashing, though. What a ride.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I must have misread the end of this because if I had realized that, I probably would have made this a retirement village instead.
Yeah. Maybe, well, she probably kept on adventuring. So
I know, I guess, because I read up to the part where she died at least, and then I thought the ending. I thought something went wrong and it didn't work. Anyway, so I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Pale Ale, the Tempest cleric of Akadi, who reminds us never give up hope. Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We are on Facebook, on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter @InPartyConflict. We've got weekly social media questions, so if you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review. Please subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, goes towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content. So Jeff, tell me about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games. You can also find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/FriendQuestStream, I believe it is.
I believe so.
We are planning to do the charity stream for Extra Life.
Yep.
In November. I guess there'll be more details as we get closer to it.
It's still a ways away, but
yeah. But Griff and I are in talks, so
awesome.
We're planning it.
All right. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you want to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, send them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Oh, Gabe, I'm late for class.